To better support the self-advocacy movement, the Administration on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities hosted a series of regional summits across the country with self-advocates, allies, and professionals.
There are over 1,200 local self-advocacy groups across this country. You can't have self-advocacy without supporting a network of local self-advocacy groups. This is the time for us to speak up for what self-advocacy is all about. And like every other civil rights movement, we need true allies.
In 2011 and 2012, a total of 9 summits were held, with every state and U.S. territory participating. Each state and territory developed a team of about 10 people, with an equal combination of self-advocates and professionals. The core team members included 2 to 3 self-advocacy leaders, 1 person from the DD Council, 1 person from Protection and Advocacy, 1 person from a university center, and 1 person from a DD State Services Agency.
AIDD wanted a deeper conversation about self-advocacy and what to do about self-advocacy.
The summits were organized around 4 goals. 1. Find out what's happening in self-advocacy in every state and territory. 2. Plan steps to strengthen efforts at the state level. 3. Make recommendations for actions at the national level. 4. Make policy recommendations that can lead to a stronger, more effective, and long-lasting self-advocacy movement across the country.
We're all in very different places. The same way we are across this country on a lot of the issues that concern people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
We felt like it was important to have all those voices in one room, focused on a state basis, to talk about where are you, how's it going, what are your needs. And what we learned along the way is that we have an incredibly diverse self-advocacy movement across the country. We have places where it's incredibly strong. We have places where it's very, very hard to connect and to stay engaged as a self-advocate.
The summits were held over 2 days. On the first day, state teams provided background about the movements in their states. Each state and territory reported on the resources they have to support self-advocacy, their major activities and accomplishments, and the challenges they face.
It was work, but it was fun. It was something new. We got to meet different states at the conference, and everyone had something to bring.
I thought it was great because we brought up a lot of things that we need to work on in our state. We're working on getting the younger people involved because they need to learn how to participate.
I was honored to be part of Maryland's team. We have so many talented and devoted people in Maryland. It was great to get self-advocates together to discuss the important issues.
States reported that self-advocacy organizations received a wide range of financial and other supports. Some self-advocacy organizations get support from local, state, and national sources, while a very few self-advocacy groups reported having solid funding. The vast majority of groups had very little money to operate. States reported on a variety of advocacy projects, including job opportunities, affordable and accessible housing, accessible transportation, post-secondary education opportunities, reducing waiting lists for services, and moving people from institutions into the community. Other topics include bullying, transition after high school, guardianship, and legislative advocacy.
Self-advocates need to be able to say what they need to say and do what they need to do. I kind of add that to it. And then me, as part of the DD network, is to listen so we can all get there together.
We kind of learned that,
You know, no one self-advocacy group looks the same because people do all kinds of different things. And that was one of the things that I learned.
Training and leadership development were also major activities identified by states. Training ranged from skill-building workshops to conferences. Topics included rights, sexuality and relationships, guardianship, and voting. Leadership development included peer support and mentoring, youth leadership, and policy education. Several states have projects focused on youth leadership. Many states reported that they were educating the public on disability awareness and accessibility. Many states had advocacy campaigns around respectful language and getting rid of the R word.
We passed a bill that got rid of the R word.
A number of states had laws passed related to respectful language. A lot of self-advocacy organizations engaged self-advocates in activities to reach out to others in the community and tell their stories. One state passed a law requiring disability history to be taught in schools. Another state created a speakers bureau for people with disabilities to present on disability awareness across the state.
We need to create a social media presence through Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and a blog site, plus have a website presence as well.
The challenges mentioned most often were lack of funding and support by advisors. Some states said they could use support to help them get grants. Finding and keeping advisors, especially those who support and empower them, rather than control meetings, with another challenge.
To make sure that it's really self-advocacy running the organizations and not being micromanaged.
Involving more self-advocates through communication and outreach was a challenge for many states. Recruiting and developing leaders, as well as keeping and engaging current membership, was difficult. Finding meaningful ways to engage youth and develop youth-led advocacy work was an area where some states felt they were struggling. Another major challenge states talked about was negative public perceptions. One state felt that many look at self-advocacy as a program rather than a movement. Many teams expressed the fact that self-advocates still face significant discrimination and feel that they are not listened to.
Include more meaningful data such as stories and reports instead of just numbers.
On the first day of each summit, state teams met to develop plans to strengthen and enhance the movement within their state. A number of common themes came across the 9 self-advocacy summits: support peer training, mentoring, and leadership development, like serving on boards and committees, strengthen supports and funding for self-advocacy at the local, regional, and state level, strengthen partnerships with other disability organizations and allies, reach out and involve other self-advocates. For example, youth and other groups that are not part of the self-advocacy movement. Educate the public about disability and self-advocacy, like getting rid of the R word. Improve community services and supports, like education, transition, transportation, housing, and community living.
I was really excited about trying to get self-advocacy groups in institutions and trying to get folks there to understand that they don't have to live there their entire life. There's lots of
affordable transportation, more youth involvement, everyone using people-first language.
State teams met on the morning of the second day of the summits to develop recommendations for national actions and policy recommendations to lead to a stronger, more effective, and long-lasting self-advocacy movement across the country. Here are the common themes that came across the 9 summits. Number 1, provide support to strengthen self-advocacy. Support state self-advocacy information and training centers run by self-advocates. Start a national resource center run by self-advocates to assist local and state self-advocacy organizations. Provide support for self-advocacy through national DD network associations. Number 2, promote inclusion and self-advocacy at the federal level. Hire and provide leadership opportunities for people with disabilities at the federal level. Improve accessibility and use of respectful language. Raise expectations for the DD network and grantees about including self-advocates. Number 3, educate people about disability and self-advocacy. Number 4, work with other federal agencies on issues like improving education, employment, transportation, and community services. The team's recommendations for national policy include the following. Number 1, make state self-advocacy information and training centers an equal part of the DD Act. Some people call this adding a fourth leg to the stool. Others think of it as the link tying together the UCEDDs, P&As, and DD councils, making the DD Act stronger. Number 2, require the DD network to work together on a plan to strengthen self-advocacy. Number 3, require the UCEDDs and P&As to support self-advocacy, like the DD councils. Number 4, require DD councils to include a young self-advocate on the council, someone under 28 years of age. Number 5, promote inclusion of self-advocates with significant disabilities and self-advocates from underrepresented communities. Number 6, promote self-advocacy in the next reauthorization of the DD Act.
Self-advocacy is not necessarily the fourth leg. Self-advocacy should be the force that holds the other 3 legs accountable.
The 9 regional summits and the 56 states and territories that participated produced a number of recommendations for moving the self-advocacy movement forward at the national level. The summits also produced policy ideas for strengthening the movement through reauthorization of the DD Act, as well as broader policy recommendations in areas that affect the lives of self-advocates. The challenge going forward will be to keep the momentum going, particularly in difficult budget circumstances. As AIDD continues to promote and support a strong self-advocacy movement at the state and national level, self-advocates and allies at the local and state level must be responsible for the next steps and real action on a lot of the recommendations.
We have a lot of things that we have in common. Now it's very important that you get back to your states, do a think, plan, do on this, and definitely get it done.
Self-advocacy doesn't mean we do it just in this room. Okay? We need to be out there. Out there.